A consultant spends 2 weeks building an automated client intake system. The launch looks fine. Then the first customer leaves 3 required fields blank, emails the missing information anyway, and asks a question the system never anticipated. Now the consultant has a faster way to create support work. Why does this happen? Because the product was built before the fulfillment was understood. I'm Ace. Good to have you here. Let me ask you something. What if the work you repeat for customers could become a business asset instead of another task on your calendar? That is the idea behind what I call fulfillment to asset ladder. You start by solving a narrow problem manually. You pay attention to what customers actually need, where the exceptions appear, and what a good result looks like. Then you standardize the repeatable core. Only after that, you package the proven pieces into a template, a toolkit, a calculator, software, training, or an authority asset. That helps people find and understand your work. The benefit is simple. You can earn now while designing for future leverage. You are not disappearing for 6 months to build something based on a hopeful assumption. You are improving an offer while real people are showing you what matters. Before we go further, here is the promotion test. Before moving a task upward on the ladder, ask 4 questions. Has the demand repeated? Are the inputs predictable enough? Can you measure a good result? And do you know which exceptions still need a human? If the answer is no to most of those, keep delivering manually. That is not failure. That is research. If the answers are mostly yes, you may have something worth standardizing or packaging. Now this is where it gets interesting. The goal is not to automate everything. The goal is to make the right parts easier, clearer, and more reliable. Let's start with the part ambitious builders often want to skip. Deliver before you automate. Take a local search consultant. At first, the audit sounds straightforward. Check the business profile, review the website, identify opportunities, and make a plan. But after the 3rd client, the neat version falls apart. One business has inconsistent directory listings. Another has no usable photographs. A third describes its services in language customers never use. So the real service is not just finding problems. It is deciding which problem matters first, what the owner can realistically maintain, and which recommendation is likely to improve the result instead of merely making the report look impressive. Manual delivery reveals the edge cases. It also reveals the customer's language. Clients may never say, I need an entity-based local search strategy. They say, people find my competitor, but they can't find me. That sentence is valuable. It can improve your sales page, your intake form, your content, and the product you eventually build. You also learn the quality standard, what information has to be collected first, which errors cause expensive delays, what does a useful result look like, and what does the customer need to understand before taking the next step. Those answers are difficult to invent from a blank page. They become much clearer when you have delivered the work yourself. There is another signal you get from manual fulfillment: willingness to pay. Someone downloading the checklist may like the idea. Someone who gives you access, answers questions, and pays for an outcome has given you stronger evidence. After every delivery, keep a small evidence log. Write down the request, the missing information, the steps you repeated, the judgment calls you made, and the questions that came up afterward. Do not create a 50-page manual. Just capture the pattern while it is fresh. The question is not, how can I document everything? It is, what keeps happening and what does it teach me? Once a pattern shows up, move to the 2nd step, standardize the repeatable core. This is where people often confuse documentation with leverage. A procedure nobody uses is not a system. A useful system helps the right person make the right decision with less friction and fewer mistakes. Separate the work into 2 buckets. One requires context, trust, or judgment. The other follows a recognizable pattern. In a small business onboarding workflow, the judgment-heavy work might be understanding the owner's priorities or deciding which offer deserves attention this month. The repeatable work might be collecting access details, creating folders, sending reminders, preparing a kickoff agenda, and turning approved information into a first draft. Here is a practical way to see the opportunity. Imagine onboarding takes 90 minutes. Maybe 35 of those minutes are spent chasing access details, answering the same questions, and sending reminders. That 35-minute block is a strong standardization candidate. A better form, a welcome email, and a reminder sequence might reduce it to 10 minutes. The strategic conversation can remain personal. That distinction matters. You are not trying to remove yourself from the part customers value. You are removing avoidable friction around it. Start small. Use a checklist, a template, an intake form, a short decision tree, or a simple spreadsheet. If artificial intelligence can summarize a call, sort information, draft a first version, or flag missing details, let it assist with that. But here is the trap. If the draft is wrong often enough, reviewing it can take longer than writing it yourself. So do not ask only, can AI do this? Ask, can I check its work in 2 minutes? If not, the task may not be ready. The system should make your expertise easier to apply. It should not pretend that expertise is unnecessary. Think about that for a moment. The best early system may be a 5-question form that prevents a bad project from starting. It may be a standard answer to the question customers ask every week. It may be a quality control checklist that catches the same 3 errors before anyone else sees them. Small assets count. If a checklist saves 15 minutes across 8 deliveries a month, that is 2 hours of capacity. If it also reduces rework, the value is higher. Leverage is not always a dramatic launch. Sometimes it is a quiet reduction in repeated effort that gives you room to think. The third step is to promote proven components into assets. Notice the word proven. A component is ready to become a product when it has survived real use, not simply when it looks polished. If customers repeatedly ask for the same explanation, that explanation might become a guide or a short training module. If they need the same calculation, it may become a calculator. If they need the same sequence of decisions, it may become a toolkit, workflow, or software feature. The asset should preserve a useful result, not merely preserve your list of tasks. Return to the local search consultant. After several audits, the consultant notices that many businesses struggle to describe their services clearly. That repeatable piece might become a guided worksheet with examples and a review step. Later, a simple assessment tool could identify missing information and suggest the next action. Suppose the consultant spends 45 minutes explaining the same service description problem in every engagement. A guided worksheet may reduce that explanation to 15 minutes, while the high context strategy stays premium and personal. That is not replacing the service. It is turning a proven explanation into a more accessible entry point. The onboarding workflow could become a client portal with an intake sequence, standard reminders, and a library of short explanations. Routine questions get a clear self-service answer. Unusual situations still receive a human conversation. And consider a practical garden planning service. The first conversation may require real judgment. Sunlight, water access, available space, food preferences, and the amount of time a household can actually spend in the garden. But a planting calendar, crop spacing guide, seasonal reminder list, and basic material calculator may repeat across many customers. Those pieces could become a planning kit, a lightweight tool, or a searchable library of useful pages. Let's connect the dots. None of these businesses jumps from an idea straight to an app. They move through evidence. Someone pays for a useful outcome. The provider notices repeated questions and steps. Those steps become clearer and more reliable. Then the stable pieces become assets. For the garden service, maybe 12 customers asked for the same planting calendar over one season. That is a stronger product signal than a dozen people saying a garden planner sounds interesting. For onboarding, Maybe the new sequence cuts missing information follow-ups from 6 emails to 2 for the search consultant. Maybe the worksheet reduces explanation time without increasing corrections. Now you have something to measure. Keep a few guardrails in place. Do not automate a process just because it is annoying. Move upward when demand repeats. Inputs are stable. The outcome is clear, and the exceptions have boundaries. Track delivery time, error rates, follow-up questions, customer adoption, and margin improvement. Keep a manual review checkpoint when the stakes are high or the exceptions are common. Automation can preserve a bad assumption with impressive consistency. A form can collect the wrong information very efficiently. Good leverage improves the experience for both sides. It does not simply move the work into a less visible place. Here is a practical 7-day experiment. After each delivery this week, spend 7 minutes recording 5 things: the trigger, the inputs, the repeated steps, the exceptions, and the result. At the end of the week, count how often each step appeared and estimate how much time it consumed. Then mark every step with one of 3 notes. Keep it personal, make it repeatable, or test it as an asset. Do not build the asset immediately. First, check whether customers value the outcome, whether the inputs are predictable, and whether you can tell when the result is good. Circle the repeated step that costs the most time without requiring much judgment. That is your first candidate for a template, checklist, or small tool. The deeper question is not, what product should I build? It is, what useful result am I already creating? And which part of that result can become easier to deliver, easier to understand, or easier for someone else to access? Service creates evidence. Evidence creates systems. Systems create assets. And assets give future work more reach. That is the fulfillment to asset ladder, built from what has survived contact with real customers. Keep judgment where it creates value, and let the repeatable core earn its way into a better form. If this episode helped you see your current client work differently, subscribe to the show. I share practical systems for building income, independence, authority, and leverage without losing sight of the people those systems are meant to serve. For the next 7 days, document 1 repeated delivery task. At the end of the week, ask 1 question. Which part of this work is already asking to become a better asset? Well, that's enough to think about for today. Appreciate you spending a few minutes with me. I'll catch you in the next one.